Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 33 of the Hazy Sports Podcast. Charlie, what a week it's been. How have you been doing?
Oh, pretty good. Every game feels like it's do or die now for some of these teams. So we're starting to get into some meaningful hockey, and it's crazy how teams can sort of crank it up a notch, and other teams are just in complete coast mode. And like the stupid Leafs can't even lose right. They're gonna end up losing this first round pick because for some reason they're grinding out these wins. It's kind of hilarious.
It almost makes you wonder if that's an advantage or a disadvantage as you head into the playoffs. Some of these teams that are scrapping it out for those final spots have been essentially playing, like you said, playoff hockey for the last month. That could either wear you down a little bit before the playoffs or have you sort of battle tested and ready to go, while some of the teams at the top haven't had meaningful games in that kind of way for a while. Speaking of teams that have been fighting it out for a final playoff position, we got to talk about the Islanders because that's kind of the headline news since we last talked. Is Patrick Waugh fired, Pete DeBoer in. We thought it was a bit of a last minute change in Vegas. The Islanders did this with only 4 games remaining. What are your thoughts on that move?
I was definitely surprised, even more than the Tortorella thing, because at least Vegas, that team was expected to be good, and they clearly are not good. Like if it wasn't for the loser points, they'd be like 12th in the West. So I got that one, but as far as the Islanders, I don't think anyone expected them to be, fighting to even get in the playoffs. So I kind of like it because this sets them up now moving forward. Obviously, Wah maybe lost the room. I don't know what the story is there, but you don't want to go into the summer not knowing who's running your team. And I think a lot of teams, like Toronto, like a couple other teams down in the bottom, were going to be looking for a good coach. And I think Pete DeBoer is a good coach. Playoff collapse in Dallas aside, like I think the players like playing for him, and I think it was smart to go out and grab him right away.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that track record in terms of playoff performance. He had been to the conference finals several times, but I was a little puzzled with the move too. And I remember when we were doing our regular season preview, and we were thinking of the Islanders as going through a bit of a rebuild. We were talking about is Sorokin even on the team at this point in the year?
Yeah.
You trading him for pieces for later? So to me, it's funny because Waugh had them all playing beyond what everybody expected. He seems to be a guy that the players like playing for, from what you can tell from the outside. He's an emotional guy. I kind of was giving him a little bit of a credit in terms of the development of Schaefer, giving him the chance to play such a key role so quickly. So I thought he did a lot of good things there, but he is a fiery guy, and maybe that super emotional personality isn't what you want behind the bench going into the playoffs, where DeBoer's kind of the complete opposite, a little bit more stoic and controlled.
And if you're DeBoer, what a great opportunity, right? Like you could have waited probably and maybe latched on with a Leaf team that doesn't really have a lot of prospects or some of the other teams down at the bottom. But you got the friggin' next Bobby Orr there, just keeps amazing every night. You got Callum Ritchie, you got this Emil Heidemann, you got Bo Horvat, you got a world-class goalie. And then you got a guy like I don't know if you've seen Kayshawn Aitchison in Barrie, but he's a speedy, physical defenseman that's going to step right in probably next year. I think it's a genius job for him to take too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Him and Torts both kind of parachuted into pretty nice situations there. Be like, fuck training camp and the regular season. I'll just come in for the
I mean,
playoffs.
that Pacific is such a joke of a division. Like Utah clinched a playoff spot, and still no one in the Pacific has clinched like at the top. I just don't. It would be funny to see like if Vegas ends up in the eighth spot, them against Colorado, because I think they could almost take them out.
That's really the only interesting storyline in the Pacific right now, is who's going to win the division. Edmonton's in first right now, I think a point ahead of both the Golden Knights and Anaheim. So That's still up for grabs. Colorado clinched the President's Trophy, which isn't always a good thing. I think only
No.
8 teams have gone on to win the cup after winning the President's Trophies. They've got out to such a big lead that you kind of almost worry about, is there going to be a little rust in getting things going? They've got enough, playoff experience there and guys that have been there before that I don't see it being a problem.
Did you see the Minnesota and Dallas highlights the other night? Like those two are locked in to play each other,
Yeah.
and it's already boiling over. Like that's going to be the best series of the first round, without question. Like those teams already hate each other. They're both loaded, and it sucks that you got to lose one of those teams right off the bat.
Yeah, but if we're gonna have this playoff format, we may as well sit back and enjoy it. And
For sure, for sure.
yeah, it is, it is nice to have that in the first round in a way. But it sucks that one of those teams is gonna be out. But it does spice the first round up a bit. Another spicy matchup in the first round that's shaping up is Tampa and Montreal. They had quite the battle earlier this week. And again, in Montreal, we talked about Buffalo going toe-to-toe with Tampa physically. Montreal doing the same thing, not really a team you think of as a super physical team, but I was pretty impressed with how they handled their business against Tampa and just continuing to roll heading into the playoffs.
It's awesome. I was the same, like you just said there. I was thinking they're not kind of built playoff tough, but they stood right in there. And I didn't like Corey Perry trying to little brother Lane Hudson. Like you pick the smallest guy on the ice to go after, but I guess that's what he does. But there was no backing down. I love that both the Buffalo and Montreal are like, fuck you guys. You've had your run. We're coming now, and we're not gonna back down. That was an awesome crowd, and I can't wait. If those two end up playing each other in the first round, that place is gonna be nuts. Uh, Nick Suzuki somehow quietly gonna hit the 100-point mark. Like I hadn't looked at the leaders for a long time, and I was just curious to see how many guys were gonna hit the 100-point mark, and I didn't expect to see his name right there. That's a hell of a year.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to do it with a lot of flash. When you're watching the Canadiens games, guys like Demidov and Caufield and Hudson kind of jump off the screen a little bit more than
Absolutely.
Suzuki. Yeah, 100 points. Uh, an impressive season for a guy that kind of does it all for the Canadiens.
And they were saying that the Michigan Wolverines were hanging out in Vegas to see if the TJ Hughes won the Hobie Baker, but there's already been discussions with Michael Hage and getting a contract going, and he could be joining the team for the playoff run, which is that's all they need is another super skilled forward. Unreal.
While we're on Montreal, we should talk about milestone for Cole Caufield getting his 50th goal, the first Canadiens player since Stéphane Richer to do that.
Is
I
it
believe
36 years?
has it been that long? Yeah, I
It
guess
was
it would
something
be.
crazy.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was like 30 something years. I was shocked.
It was the 90s, so yeah, I
Yeah.
guess that does make sense. But it becomes only, I think, the seventh player in that storied franchise to get 50 goals. And, having been at a game at the Bell Center earlier this year and seeing the way they reacted and responded to that, I can only imagine how electric that must have been in that building. They've got such an appreciation for the history of hockey and these milestones. So yeah, it's hard not to like what's going on in Montreal these days.
Did you hear the French call of the 50th goal?
No,
I don't speak French, but it's almost like it took it to another level because the announcer was so jacked up about it. And then he just let the crowd take it after the goal was scored, and it was like perfect. Couldn't set it up better.
that was quite a moment. Pretty cool to watch there.
I should say too,
Yeah,
we talked about Caufield's goals and how he has 0 empty netters. Nathan McKinnon actually has 7 empty net goals. So if you want to weight this, I'd say Caufield's 50 are a little more impressive.
yeah, and I forgot to check where McKinnon is at. Is he still at 50 or is
He's got 51 now,
he's
I
got
believe.
another one? Okay.
Yeah.
So that's still Rocket Richard Trophy up for grabs. And then give us an update on the Art Ross race because McDavid went nuclear again this week with a pretty impressive performance. I mean, they're all
And you
impressive
want to,
performances from him,
yeah,
but this one
you want to,
particularly stood out.
you want to talk about little brother and a guy. It was like he took that game against the Sharks a little personal because there was talk that leading into that game that was Celebrini more of a Hart Trophy candidate than McDavid, and I think some of that maybe leaked down because that was crazy. I don't know. It's hard to say if he's peaking because he does this shit all the time, but the last 11 games, he's just been on an absolute tear. And that one goal where I know Dmitry Orlov's not up for any Norris trophies, but he just made him look like he was standing still. So 133 points now. He's only the fourth player in history to have multiple 130-point seasons. Not bad. I'd say he's in the running for a Hart.
I was going to say that'd be a good trivia question, but I guess the other guys are pretty obvious.
Pretty obvious.
Yeah, yeah. So you mentioned how much better can this guy get? Like, you sort of thought when you're watching him at the Olympics, are we seeing the greatest player ever at his absolute prime right now? He seems to be still going. Like, you kind of wonder when he gets around this age, is this sort of as peak as it's going to get? And it seems like the bar's still going up. And with Leon out, he just seems to have taken it to another level.
That's the thing. This last run, his fucking line mates are Pod Colson and Matt Savoy, and he's still putting up 2, 3, 4, 5 points a game. It's insane.
Well, I'm going to be looking for a bandwagon pretty soon here, Charlie. You know, we haven't
No,
brought up.
no, I think you guys are getting him. I
Are
think
you?
I
Well,
think
according to the odds makers, we have a 5% chance of making it into the playoffs right now. But it was a good performance against the Flyers the other night. That was a very satisfying game after a few games of not exactly the greatest effort from the Wings.
the only bad part for the Wings is the last two are on the road because I think they're gonna win today. They got the Devils today at home. Devils have pretty much fucking nailed it in. They're out of it. I think you can get the win today, then you're gonna need some help. But you finish against Florida, who they might as well be dressing an AHL team at this point. Everybody's out, everybody's sitting because they are another team that needs to finish in that bottom 10 to keep their draft pick. And unlike the Leafs, they are actually just mailing it in to make sure they don't lose it. So the key game, I think, is going to be the Lightning because the Lightning should still have home ice to play for. So if they can somehow scratch that one out, and you get some help, I think you guys you're gonna sneak in.
I like your optimism, Charlie. Here, I was ready to eulogize their season here. No, I think you're right. I think all the games are winnable. The problem is we're 3 points back of the Senators right now. Senators got the tiebreaker, and the Senators just won't friggin'
On
lose.
fire.
So we need them to, I think, lose at least two out of their remaining games, and then have the Wings win out, and
But the
that'll get the
Senators have
job done.
somebody tough today. Who are they playing today?
They're playing the Islanders, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
so
that's another.
that's kind of probably the most that one of the more pivotal games on the schedule today.
So where are the Islanders in accordance to the Wings? Like, does this screw you either way?
No, because the Islanders win. The Wings are actually ahead of the Islanders by a point
Okay,
right
I
now.
have. I
Yeah,
didn't look at the standings this
yeah,
morning. Okay,
yeah. So
so you need DeBoer to work some magic to get
yeah,
you guys
come
in the
on,
playoffs.
Pete DeBoer, get those boys fired up. We need to not just win, I need to break their spirit. I need to, have like, Kachuk snapping on Allmark and get some really lose that dressing room. So they fumble down the stretch.
Are you surprised that that team's been able to pull it together with all the shit that's gone on?
They were like the least of my concerns going down the
Yeah,
stretch because there was that whole controversy, around
with Allmark.
with Allmark and guys seeming to get called out for infidelity and things
And
like
then
that.
the podcast stuff, did you see all that where Keith Kachuk was making fun of a guy? Like, I couldn't even believe that was ever released, for one thing. But I thought for sure this is gonna fucking bury this team now.
Yeah, but it seems to have, like, almost galvanized them. They're playing, like, better than ever.
Kind of weird. Yeah.
They've got some studs on that team, and Allmark can steal games. Like, he's a bit of a temperamental goalie that can go either way. Yeah,
Yeah.
we
Crazy.
we need a little help, but yeah, I appreciate your optimism. Maybe I've been listening to too many Red Wings podcasts that are doom and gloom, so I've kind of written that off. But I should give some props out to a couple guys. The captain, Larkin, he's been struggling with some injuries for the last while, so it was nice to see him get a hat trick. And Mo Seider just put on like a Norris Trophy type performance, dominating on the defensive end, logging minutes, and putting up 5 points. He was just doing everything that night.
That pass to get Larkin's hat trick, like the release was ridiculous on the shot. Like I don't even think the Philly goalie moved, but to just float it over two sticks and it lands right on, like as he's ready to shoot it, that was beautiful. But
Yeah, it's
5 points, unreal.
he's been like an awesome defensive defenseman since he came into the league, but his offensive side of his game has been a little slow to develop. And so just seeing him make those kind of finesse plays combined with everything else that he brings, yeah, it's exciting. And it actually just it makes it a little bit more frustrating because it feels like there were so many games we let get away down the stretch. It's going to come down to a point or two here. Even the game against Columbus, they were, winning with like a minute left or less than a minute left in regulation. And then Fantilli scores to tie
Terrible
it up and
penalty.
they lose it in a shootout. So just, yeah, there's been a lot of those moments. But the other guy, and I want to mention, and then no more Red Wings talk for the rest of the year unless they
It's
somehow
all
make
right.
it into the playoffs. I want to give a shout out to Alex DeBrincat because he just got his 40th goal, which is a career high for him. 40 goals, nothing crazy that we haven't seen before. But if you're not watching a lot of Red Wings game, I don't know if people appreciate how good this guy is and just dangerous with the puck every time he gets it. He's scrappy on the defensive side and just, I've watched pretty much all the Wings games this year, and he's the one guy that almost has never had an off night from an offensive standpoint. Not only the 40 goals, but a good chunk of those 40 goals were game winners or big goals because, Detroit's not an offensive juggernaut by any means. So the goals come with a little bit more emphasis that it seems like than maybe a more prolific offensive team.
It was a beauty goal too, because the play before that, Larkin had tried the same play, but he tried to go far side and he kind of faked to the far side and then just roofed a perfect backhand, which in close, I can't even fathom being able to have the hands to do that so quick. The thing that surprised me is that's their first 40 goal scorer since 2008. I don't know. I guess I just assume teams have guys who light it up, but when they flashed that up, I was like, "Holy cow!"
Yeah, it's been a bit of a offensive drought in Motown for the last while, but that was a filthy goal. And even the no-look pass from Raymond to set that up, that got me off the couch for that one. So some positive Wings moments as we close out the season. One thing I forgot to mention, we brought him up last time, Porter Martone. He's now 6 games in. He got his first goal, which is an OT winner. So that was a pretty cool moment to see him get his first NHL goal, be a game winner in OT. The fact that Tocchet even trusts him enough to have him out is in the 3-on-3 says a lot about how he's playing. He's now got 6 points, 2 goals, 4 assists in his first 6 games. Looking like if they get into the playoffs, he could be a real difference maker for them.
And in that Wings game, him and Owen Tippett were by far the most dangerous looking Flyers on that night. Like he had 2 or 3 chances to score in that game. He got one, and then Dvorak got credited with the other one, but he looks like a hell of a player. And they were even talking him up in the Wings broadcast, how they were saying that Philly was surprised that he was still there at number 6 where he went. Yeah, they got a good one there. It'll be interesting, like you said, if they do get in to see how he flourishes in the playoffs because he loves to go to the net. There was one play where he took Sider wide and Seider had to actually tackle him because he just has that strength on the puck. It was a good play.
One last thing I was going to bring up, we were talking about Schaefer earlier. He did get one more goal to tie Leach's record for most goals by a rookie defenseman. So small window for him to break that record. I don't think there's much more you can say about this guy that we haven't already said, but that would just be sort of the cherry on top to this rookie season if he gets one more to break that record.
Have you watched many of the Islanders games? Because it's fucking awesome how they just let him do whatever he wants to do because they trust him so much to either get back if he does get caught. Like he's basically like a fourth forward out there. It's great.
And that's why I was kind of talking about, does Waugh not get enough credit for, the year he's had? Because to put that kind
Right.
of trust in an 18-year-old defenseman,
It's crazy.
you know, maybe it
But to
doesn't take
even
a coaching genius to let a talent like that play. But at the same time, I feel like there's a lot of teams that would bring him in
would
a lot
put the
slower and
handcuffs on.
allow him to flourish like that.
But to even have the balls to just do the stuff that he does at 18 is crazy. And this, like we were talking about Bouchard knocking on the door of 100. I bet you this kid gets 100 points in the next couple of years. He's that friggin' good.
Yeah, it's exciting to see the amount of great young talent coming up to supplement all the guys we have in their prime right now. Speaking of in our prime, Charlie, we were probably in our prime back in 91, 92 from our hockey career, and it was kind of fun last episode talking about your son and my nephews and some of the minor hockey experiences that we've had. So it kind of got us reminiscing a little bit about our own minor hockey days.
I always loved the bus rides. I don't even know why it was even that fun because most of the time we just took a shitty old school bus. But I feel like that's where, a team becomes a team where you can sort of sit and joke around and whatever. But we were so lucky. Like I think of how my son's teams work. Like he doesn't know who he's playing with year in and year out because they have, different levels, different tiers. Where we always got to know, if you're signing up for hockey, you're making the team and it's the same, 10 kids or 15 kids. So we were kind of lucky that way. But I was unfortunately never on any of the good winning teams, which kind of sucked. I always missed it every year. You guys always seemed to be good every second year when I had to move up a level. But looking back, it was always just a blast. But what about you? What stands out for you?
Yeah, I mean, there's like a whole episode's worth of stuff that you could do. I mean, I think of that Paisley tournament we talked about before, going up to the pool hall and just hanging out all day up there. Winning the Mild May Adam tournament at the time was a pretty cool experience. Being like this huge deal in Mild May, and being kind of like the first big thing that we won as a team. But for me, right, it was the first All Ontario championship that we won, and I think back to the same things, the same 10 guys that I played with every year since we were like 8 or 9 years old. And I think what was so satisfying is we didn't have success right away. It was getting a little bit further each year. And I remember battling it out with Ripley, was kind of like our local rivals. And they put us out of the playoffs a couple of years in a row. And finally we beat them to win the Western League. And then we advanced to play Belmont in the semifinals. I think that
Yeah,
might have been our first year Bantam. And they just kicked the shit out of us, and that was the trip I forgot my
it's
skates
forgot the
at.
skates.
So
Yeah,
you kind of have these disappointments, where you don't even get out of your own region, and then you finally get there, and then you get your butt kicked in the semis, and then finally kind of that second year Bantam for us. So you were a year
I
above
was
them for.
gone. Yeah,
You were gone. You were there for the party after, but it was such a cool experience finally getting to the All Ontario, and you're playing these towns. We were playing Mariposa and like never even heard of this place, and you're taking these bus rides to towns you've never heard of. And I still remember like the buzz in Mild May as we got to the All Ontario. I'm working in the grocery store. I've got grandmas and grandpas coming up, you think you can get it done, and you could just feel it. And pretty cool to be like 15 or whatever we were at that time. And I remember the Mildmay Arena just as packed as it could possibly get, the intensity, and to win it all in Mildmay and just have the place going nuts, have that fire truck waiting for us to take us for a spin around town after. And then best of all was the party at your parents' place. Cause I remember as we got to the All Ontario finals, the buzz started going around that if we won, we would get kegs, and it was it would be my first
Awesome.
keg party ever, and so sure enough, yeah, we had the kegs there. I think your mom had probably cooked up about 80 pounds of chicken wings, and your dog Bart got to eat most of the bones
Whole
after.
tray of
I
balls.
don't think I don't I don't think Bart moved for about 3 days after that
He was
party.
he was more chicken than dog at one point. The crazy thing too is, if people don't know where Mildmay is, it's a town of 1,000 people, and you could probably make the case that 40% of the town was in that arena for those games, like, which is kind of crazy, but like it was literally standing room only for those finals games, and it was just nuts.
It's funny just like how vividly you kind of remember all of these moments that we're talking about. We ended up going on actually to win two more, but the first one was always like the one you remember the most. Before that, you would talk about the All Ontario, and it would feel like this thing that was no way. Like you didn't even want to allow yourself to dream about that actually becoming a real thing. And then as you kept getting closer and closer and it became a reality, it was just like, kind of mind blowing. My dad made a joke, I think, at the wedding where I would never want to go to church. But when we got to the All Ontario, I remember getting down on my hands and knees and praying to just let us win this. We never have to win anything after this again, but just give us one All Ontario.
And this goes back to what I was saying about, with this open borders and living in a bigger town. I kind of feel bad for these kids because we were so lucky to play with the same group every year, year in, year out. So I'm not saying it meant more, but it's like you said, you grew up with these kids, and you made each step each year, and then you finally reached the pinnacle.
It definitely creates this interesting bond, right? Because there's a lot of guys on the team that I wasn't super close with off the ice or didn't like hang out with like on a regular basis off the ice. But still to this day, if I ran into them at Harley's or anywhere for beer, you kind of feel almost this brotherhood where you would stop and shoot the shit, reminisce for half an hour, and there's like this kind of close connection that you feel. So I do think that was a big part of it. It was the same core group from the time we were little kids, failing, finally making a little further, and then getting the job done, and then kind of building on that confidence, even having the same coaches all the way through,
Right.
that made a huge difference. Everybody had their role on the team. As we were thinking about talking about this on the episode, I was almost getting a little emotional just thinking about the old memories because they are so meaningful.
We should open it up to anybody who was on that team that has any memories that wants to come on and share them. We'd love to have you on for sure.
Yeah, that's a great idea. So reach out to us. Maybe we'll put the Hazy mailbag email address in here, and anybody that wants to chime in with some memories, we would love to hear about that. But unfortunately, now for us, Charlie, our prime years are behind us on the ice.
Oh, so speak for yourself.
We're gonna have to live vicariously through nephews, sons, daughters, and NHL playoffs. So it's nice looking back on that. And actually, that's a nice segue into our trivia question for this week. With all the struggles of the Wings, I was also reminiscing on better days and some of these iconic Wings teams, trying to cheer myself up here and remember how good things once were in Detroit. And that kind of brought up an interesting trivia question I wanted to run past you. So on the 2002 Detroit Red Wings, there was 10 Hall of Famers on that team. So it was a simple question. How many of those can you name? I'm gonna put the bar at 6 to see if you can get
Okay.
those, and then if you can get any more, that's just extra credit because all of the names are gonna be guys you know, but it's just hard to probably think of them all at once.
10?
There's 10 on that team. A couple were free agent signings that hadn't been with the team for that long.
Sure.
And that's not even including Scotty Bowman, who's a Hall of Fame coach. So 10 Hall of Fame active players on that roster.
Is that a record? I'd be curious to know if that happened.
It's close. The Canadians had 11 Hall of Famers in the 70s. And then there was like a Boston team from the 30s, which I don't know if I really count that because it's going back so far. But yeah, they had, I think they have the record with 12 or 13. But, guys you've never heard of. So in the modern era, 11 is the record.
I love that. I love old stats that were now you just say, yeah, whatever. Like old baseball stats are the biggest joke because you got like Cy Young has like 500 and something wins that no one will ever touch, and just it's not like comparing eras never works, but it's just funny how some of these things are never going to be beaten. But he was probably throwing to guys who just worked a 12-hour shift at the fucking steel mill, and he managed to strike them out. Anyways, I'm not going to shit on Cy Young. He's
Yeah, I'm sure the nutritional protocols of these and
just eating a
and
steak.
skills development weren't what they are now. But I would say, yeah, Detroit doesn't have the record, but you probably could put this list of 10 Hall of Famers in terms of quality against anybody else. There's, I think, 6 of them were first ballot Hall of Famers.
Crazy.
So, anyways, we'll give you time to think about that, and we'll come back in the outro and see how many of them you can rip off.
All right.
Okay, time for our weekly report card. Why don't you kick us off here, Charlie?
I've been reviewing your work. Quite frankly, it stinks. These reports you handed in, it's almost as if you have no business training at all.
All right. I got an A, but also a D for the band Angine de Poitrine. Have you seen these guys?
No.
Okay, so they're kind of a internet sensation right now. It's a band out of Quebec, and it's a two-piece band, and I don't know if it's good, but it's definitely interesting. So they're head to toe in white and black polka dots. They have these giant weird mask things that they wear, but they play this crazy instrumental music. So they use a microtonal guitar. So a regular guitar has 22 to 24 frets. This thing has probably got 40, and they're playing notes that you've never heard before. They're using these insane time signatures where nothing seems to make sense, and then all of a sudden it clicks. It's visually really cool. I'm just not sure if it's actually good. Like, I think they've cornered the market on a 1 minute clip online, which makes it interesting, but I can't imagine sitting through a concert of this because it would probably just break your brain. But if you get a chance, check it out. So I'm going to say A for the concept, but maybe a D for the actual execution.
Sounds pretty cool. I'll definitely check that out.
My best comparison would be like if Devo and Primus made an instrumental band. If that gives you any sort of thought.
Yeah, I could see maybe a fun song or two to listen to, but
Yeah.
maybe not a whole
But
concert.
visually, it's crazy. Like I definitely look it up because it's pretty neat.
All right, I'll check that out. I'm going to give an A+ to a classic TSN personality, Vic Rauter, who just retired. Total OG, going back to the TSN days when we were growing up in those days, and he was one of those guys with Bob McKenzie and early years where it was a real treat kind of getting the highlights. And, of course, Vic is known as sort of the voice of Canadian curling, and one of the best taglines in all of sports, make the final. Congrats to Vic Rauter. Thanks for the memories. Enjoy your retirement. They don't make them like you guys anymore.
I didn't realize he had retired. When you mentioned Vic Rauter was shutting it down, I looked up some of the old like cast member or crew members of the sports desk or whatever the hell it was called. Do you remember Teresa Hergert?
The name rings a bell, but I'm not.
It was. I remember her being on there, and I was always super annoyed because it was like my mom was giving me the sports highlights. Anyways, she's one I always forgot about, and then Jim Van Horn, of course, with the duster, all-time duster. But the name that stood out the most to me, and we actually met him. Do you remember seeing Paul Romanuk when we went to the?
Absolutely. We were at a Blue Jays game, I think.
I couldn't believe how short he was. That was the thing that stood out in my mind.
And also, we hadn't been at a Mildmay that often, so our exposure to celebrities was pretty minimal. So
Yeah,
the fact that we were in complete shock and awe when Paul Romanuk walked past.
Yeah, like when TSN kicked off, we probably only had cable for about 3 or 4 years where we lived, so it was a huge deal. Anyways, I'll miss Vic. He was a goat. All right, I got an A+ for Ottawa Senators defenseman Thomas Chabot. In an era of professional athletes taking off every friggin' game that they can, it seems like, this dude broke his arm 18 days ago, and he's back in the lineup. Played 21 minutes Thursday night for the Ottawa Senators, getting the win. He was a +1. Like, that's just tough as nails, right? You're in a playoff fight, and he just does whatever he can do to get back in the lineup. So A+ for hockey guys and Thomas Chabot.
Apparently, we're gonna need him to break both his friggin' arms for the Red Wings to make the playoffs here. I got a D for hot dog crust pizza from Pizza Hut. Has pizza not already been the best food ever? Do we need to make pizza better? I guess that's my question. Do we need cheese in the crust? Okay, fine. I can live with that. Do we need a little volcano thing of sauce? Sure, whatever. But now we're adding full steamed hot dogs into the crust. I just feel like we're trying to improve something that's perfection already. So just make a good quality pizza, keep the ingredients simple, and keep the hot dogs out of the crust. So a D for Pizza Hut.
Never tried that, but when my kids who both love hot dogs say, "Oh, that's gross," it's not a good idea. All right, I got another A+ for Owen Riegling, another kid from Mildmay, Bruce County, small town. Whether or not you like country music or not, the fact that this kid has made it is just an incredible story. I just read he's playing the Grand Ole Opry in a couple weeks, which is unbelievable. Like, that's like the mecca of country music, and a kid from a town of 1,000 people is now going to play this venue. Just blows my mind. And then he's also playing Massey Hall this year, which, you can, if you don't like country music, I get it, but this story is unbelievable, and I just think that everyone should support this kid because it's just so unreal to think that he's made it this far. So a big A+.
And what makes it cool is how much he's brought Mildmay into his story, into his songs, into, the interviews he talks about. Like, he's got to be officially the most famous person ever from Mildmay at this point, right?
Well, it's him or Hertzy.
I was going to say, who would even be second? But you're right. Great story and cool
It's amazing.
to have somebody from our hometown kind of hit it big like this. So yeah, and it seems like he's just on a rocket ship right now and only gonna get.
Yeah, keep it going.
All right, I'm gonna go with a D for the Sabres' third jersey. I'm gonna keep this short and sweet, but I think their classic blue and yellow are one of my favorite jerseys. And they switched to the black, red, and silver jerseys with the cartoon buffalo on the front. It just hurts my eyes. They're almost my least favorite jerseys, and I don't get why teams completely abandon their brand look and feel and go to colors that don't have anything to do with their franchise. They were wearing those the other night, and I just thought, I hate those jerseys.
It is a tough look, especially when the original is so perfect. Like, why even bother? Play something off of that original. Don't go completely outside the box. I agree. I'm not a big fan of that. All right, I got an A+ again for the Pittsburgh Pirates. So they had the top prospect in all of baseball, Connor Griffin, They didn't dick around with this player control stuff. They just said, look it, you're going to be a superstar. Here's a 9-year deal. Let's just get it done. Pay the kid right now. One of the things that bothered me the most with the Blue Jays is they were dragging out this contract stuff with both Vladdy and Bo Bichette. And as much as it's a business, you have to think there's some personal feeling in there when you just won't pay this guy who's obviously going to be, a cornerstone of your team. And Pittsburgh said, screw it, we're not going that route. Let's just pay the guy right now. So I love that. I love that business. So A+ for the Pirates.
I'll stick with baseball, and I've got an A+ for Atlanta Braves manager Walt Weiss. So in a game this week, pitcher Ronaldo Lopez came up high and hard on Jorge Soler's, and words were exchanged, and eventually Jorge decided he was going to charge the mound. Now, keep in mind here, Jorge is 6'3", 230 pounds.
He's a beast.
He's a beast. And Walt Weiss, the manager for the Braves, in the middle of this scuffle, weaves his way through the crowd. He's 62 years old, by the way, and applies a perfect tackle on Jorge Soler
nice double leg
to take him out. And I just thought, wow, that's, you don't see a manager get involved in like that, but the perfect sort of ground and pound from Walt Weiss. I was impressed when I saw that.
And I'll add to that, I saw a move that I've never seen before with Lopez using the baseball as a weapon to punch Soler with it. Like, that can't feel great.
I was almost wondering if that was almost like you get caught up in the emotion of it and you forget that you even have it in your hand. Like, whether that was just like, I forgot to drop the ball, or whether he was using that as a weapon. Sometimes you see these brawls and it's sort of like the fake tough guy thing in baseball, and they're not really like interested in throwing hands. Yeah. Friggin' Soler's was throwing haymakers. Like, he was wanting to do some damage there. And so the fact that came in amongst those haymakers and timed that perfectly, he had to thread the needle between about four or five different players to kind of make that tackle. Definitely worth watching that highlight if you guys haven't seen it.
All right, my last one. I have an F for the ref cam in the Premier League. I was just watching Arsenal versus Bournemouth this morning, and there's nothing I hate more than when there's a call in a soccer game or match, and there's all these guys going around doing this, so to make it even worse now you have a first-hand view of these losers making like the prayer signal in front of this ref, and I'm like, on one hand, I guess if they're trying to embarrass these guys, to show them how stupid they look, then I can deal with it, but it adds nothing to the game, and I don't want to see this all the time. Like, it's just so over the top. I used to love soccer, and I can't get there anymore. So an F for the ref cam.
Well, I'm going to finish up the report card with an A+ for the Masters. I've been enjoying the hell out of this for the last couple of days. For my money, it's the best televised sporting event that there is, bar none. The tradition that goes along with this, I was watching the 40th anniversary of Jack Nicklaus winning the Masters in '86. And what's so cool about it is because they've kept everything the same over the years, seeing him win that, it almost looked like they just took the picture from today's event and put clothes from 40 years ago on these people. Like, everything about it's the same. I love the traditions. I love how once you win the Masters, you get to participate every year. You've got the Champions Dinner. You've got Jack Nicklaus and Gary Player kicking it off every year. Jim Nantz and the crew on the broadcast, like, that's about as good as it gets from like television broadcasting. And then you combine that with it being maybe the most beautiful place on earth, and you're just you're watching that Masters. It's like a warm blanket being wrapped around you, and you just can settle in on the couch for a few hours and enjoy it.
It's like you're wearing one of Vern Lundquist's sweaters.
Exactly. So A+ to the Masters. All right, we're on the home stretch here, Charlie. So time to come back to our trivia question. We're talking classic Red Wings, quintessential Red Wings. 2002, they went on to win the Cup that year. They beat the Carolina Hurricanes. 10 active players on that roster that were Hall of Famers. Let's start ripping them off, see how many you can get.
All right, I think I can get 6. So we're going to start with, obviously, Stevie Y,
Yep,
Fedorov,
yep,
Lidstrom.
yep.
Was Larry Murphy on one of these teams?
No, he wasn't on
Okay.
this team. Yeah.
Okay.
But he did play.
What
He
is-
did play for the Wings for a while. But
Yeah. Was Brett Hull around?
he was. Yeah, he was a free
Okay.
agent signing on that team.
Okay. I'm going to have to go deep here. I don't think Osgood's not a Hall of Famer.
No, he's not.
No.
But there is a
Hasek.
Hasek. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got 5.
Oh man, now I'm drawing blanks.
One of the guys was very early in his career, and you probably know him as classic Red Wing from the next era of Red Wing players.
Oh, not Datsuk. Was he in there?
Yeah.
He was on those teams.
He was on that team. Yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So you got,
Okay.
I believe one guy that was a free agent signing is the all-time point leader for left wingers, or was at the time.
What about, am I missing a couple Russians?
You are missing one Russian. Yes.
One Russian.
He was the guy that we talked about in our 87 Canada Cup.
Larionov.
Larionov, yes. Yep.
Okay. I got 7. That's not bad.
Yeah. So you're missing a first ballot Hall of Fame defenseman who played most of his career with Chicago, but then Chelios.
Man, this team's crazy.
And another guy from the Kings.
Robitaille?
Luc Robitaille, yeah.
He was on that team.
He was on that
Holy
team, yeah.
shit. This is crazy.
And the guy you're missing, there's a famous moment when they had the big rivalry against the Avalanche, and he did a jump tackle on Patrick Waugh and went to fisticuffs toe-to-toe with Patrick Waugh during that rivalry. He was recently fired as the president of the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Oh, yeah. Wow, that's a crazy team. Brendan Shanahan,
yeah. So I think you got all 10 there. Yzerman, Fedorov, Shanahan, Robitaille, Hull, Larionov, Datsuk, Lidstrom, Chelios, Hasek, and Scotty Bowman on the bench. I actually worked in Windsor at that time, and the agency I worked for had Red Wings seasons tickets. I was a lowly account guy at the time, so I would get the games nobody would want to go to, but would usually get to 2 or 3 games a year. And I just remember the way they'd snap that puck around and thinking, geez, like hockey doesn't get much better than this.
I picture you like George when he was working on the Penske file, just playing the drums at his desk, and someone drops you 2 tickets. That's quite a lineup. Holy shit.
Yeah, so I wanted to cheer myself up as we've been struggling and missing the playoffs for the last 10 years to remember that we had it pretty good for a while.
Jason. They're getting in.
Okay, we're doing this, Charlie. Yeah, I like your enthusiasm. So let's go down the home stretch here. Frozen Four, we had our semifinals. Sorry, was there something you were...
Before we get to the Frozen Four, we got to get to the frozen piss tube and the Artemis.
Yeah, so our astronauts on the Artemis mission made it safely back to Earth, plunged down in the Pacific Ocean around 9:00 last night. Everything seemed to go off without a hitch except for that frozen piss pipe. So
and
I guess they didn't think about that one.
The best joke that didn't make the last episode was they had the frozen piss tube during Easter weekend. And I said to you, good luck getting a space plumber on a long weekend. Some of the stuff from they were calling it the far side of the moon is unbelievable. And if I'm not putting on my tinfoil hat again, but if there was ever any doubt that we made it or didn't make it, there's no fucking way. After seeing some of this stuff, there's no doubt in my mind they did not make it. Though my dad messaged me after the last episode and he claims he watched it on TV, so it had to have happened.
I have to admit, we were kind of joking around about it and wondering what it was all for, but I got a little bit captivated by it, especially the re-entry last night. I got home just in time where they were about to enter the atmosphere again, and they're like doing 40,000 kilometers an hour and then reaching like temperatures of 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit, and then to just fall exactly in the Pacific Ocean where they planned almost to the minute. That's insane to think about that journey.
One of the coolest things about working where I work, we actually had Chris Hadfield come in and
Like,
talk to people at work, and he was talking about the re-entry process, how it's like the worst part of the trip because of the insane speeds and just the rough overall landing coming back and seeing it. I'm just like, my God, like how do they even survive?
it's like the astronaut version of having to wait in that long customs line when you get back to Pearson from a European vacation. It's kind of was cool to just have this thing that everybody in the world is sort of watching and following. And yeah, there's like a 10-hour video on Netflix. I didn't watch all 10 hours of it, but I was kind of skimming through that to see the pictures as they were going around. Yeah, pretty cool. I don't know where we go from here, but yeah.
You started with the Frozen Four.
Oh yeah. The Frozen Four. So from a frozen piss line to the Frozen Four. Michigan's out, so quite a roller coaster ride if you're a Wolverines fan. Monday they won the Natty on the hard court, and then Thursday they lost out on their chance for a Natty on the ice. So Denver moves on, Wisconsin moves on. Denver has a chance to extend their lead for the most national championships. That game's actually on tonight. So in the midst of like a huge NHL slate, that game's actually on. Whether or not TSN will be televising it or not, I'm not 100% sure. But
we got on TSN 2, 3, and 5. We got the missed plays of the year from 2008.
Yeah, and some random tennis tournament you've never heard of.
I think the Badgers are going to get it done. And at what point does this David Carl go and get an NHL job? Like,
I think he could write his own ticket basically at this point.
Agreed.
Like, yeah, so it'll be interesting to follow along and just add it to the hockey smorgasbord of entertainment we have. When's the last time you went for a smorgasbord? Like, are you a big buffet guy? Is there a difference between a buffet and a smorgasbord?
I think it's just a better word.
Yeah, I haven't been for a good schmorg in a while. Maybe we'll have to hit the Mandarin the next time you're in London and do some smorgasbord content.
There's a big smorg of hockey tonight. So yeah, let's hope your Red Wings can get it done. Edmonton can clinch a playoff spot. All kinds of shit on the line. So
yeah, we've got a big weekend and then Masters Sunday tomorrow. Rory's kind of running away with things, so we'll see if anybody can give him a run. And then next week, Charlie, will be our playoff preview.
Playoff preview, yeah.
The picture will be set, so we'll have to, that'll be a big one to kind of kick things off because the playoffs actually start next Saturday night, so we'll probably be recording
that morning.
That day, yeah.
All right, buddy.
Well, lots to be excited about. It's a good time of year to be a sports fan. So enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.
Cheers.